So, hi, everybody. This is Cheryl Peralt. Thank you for tuning in. Just a few months ago, a friend of mine asked me to do Zoom meetings, and I said, no, I'm not interested in that. And here we are. First, Wake Up and Smell the Poetry program on Zoom. So, I guess it's nothing like a pandemic and quarantine to learn about flexibility. I hope you're all well and taking good care where you are at this time of quarantine. Um, this program is a program that's been going on for 14 years now, offering poetry and songs and spoken word. Normally, we meet at the HCAM TV studio once a month in front of a live audience and offer an hour of guest features followed by an hour of open mic. And last month we had pared it down to just features, and because we are just starting the quarantine time. And I didn't think we'd have this program, but this Tuesday, Jim Cousins said, yes, we could have the program a la Zoom. And our kind features tonight said yes to making this happen, which I'm grateful for. I'm grateful to the crew and glad for all of you who are out there as viewers. This is admittedly, as I said, our first Zoom event, and we're going to give it a go and see how it works with music and poetry. And I'm very happy that we have the two guest features that were scheduled for this month, and that is Nadia Colburn and the Lied Tos. And I feel like what is special about both features tonight on board that they write words and songs, words of poems and songs that I believe especially resonate with these times we're dealing with. So we'll get started by introducing our first feature, which consists of the Lied Tos, and that is Susan Levine and Doug Portler. Both of Massachusetts singer-songwriters who got started together in 2014, known for their blend of folk, rock, and country. And their most recent CD is The Lesser of Two Evils, which has received universal praise for its gritty instrumentation, impeccable harmonies, and honest songwriting. And I liked some of the comments that have been on their website, which I'll let you take a look at. We'll mention the website later. But there was one in particular that I noticed that if the Lied Tos ask what keeps us in the world, and part of the answer is music, and part of the music is music like this that they are about to share with us. But I just want to quickly ask, check in and see how you're doing during this time of quarantine. And how are you getting by? Susan, start with you.
We're hanging in. I have two kids. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and we're going for a couple of walks a day and watching some TV, and I'm making sure they do their homework. So it's okay. And I'm also a music therapist in my day job, and we have entirely switched to Zoom for our work, and I find that particularly challenging.
Sure.
But, we're hanging in. I mean, the hardest part is I can't see Doug. Doug and I are socially distanced from one another, so that's been tough. We can't really rehearse, or we do get together occasionally 6 feet apart outside and try to work that way, but it's definitely hard.
Yeah. It's a new reality for sure. Doug, how about you?
Yeah, sort of the same thing, just keep it inside. I do music production in my studio here in my house, and fortunately I had some work that would carried over, kind of overlapping into this period that I could work on. So I'm able to do some of that, but I also do a lot of playing in assisted living and nursing homes, and I can't do that anymore, obviously. So that kind of is disappointing for many reasons. Like Susan said, the tough part is not being able to see her. both socially and also musically. We can't do too much. We meet outside and we play some guitars, and we do some of that every once in a while. I have two kids that I share with their mom, and they go back and forth. So it's certainly tough times, and but we're trying to make the most of it and just do the best we can, like everyone else.
Right. Yeah. Well, has this time inspired any songs with the two of you?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Susan.
The first song I'm going to play, actually.
Okay. Oh,
Song inspired by what we're going through.
uh-huh. Yeah.
Find some lyrics, but not full songs yet.
Okay. And
Yeah.
Is this your first Zoom performance, or have you been doing others?
We didn't do a Zoom performance, but we had an open mic, not an open mic, a songwriting circle with Zoom. So that was an interesting.
And I did a something for the Somerville Songwriters.
Oh yeah, you did. That's right.
I did one, I think.
Great. Oh,
Maybe.
good. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled that you are here tonight for our first program on Zoom. And you have a new CD. When did that come out?
So
That was
yeah.
2018.
Lesser of Two Evils.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the CD, Lesser of Two Evils. And
This can be ordered on Amazon, maybe?
yeah, you can get it on Amazon and iTunes and all those places.
All those places.
CD Baby. And you can also get it on our website, which is lied2music.com, LIEDTO music.
Yeah, it's a great website. And I am going to stop my talking and turn the mic over to both of you for the next 30 minutes. And thank you so much for being a part of this program.
Thank you, Cheryl. We're excited. All right. So I guess I'm going to start us off. Unfortunately, Doug and I can't sing together because there's audio delay when you try to do anything through a video platform on the computer. So we're going to play separately today. So you won't be able to hear those impeccable harmonies, but you should go and get our CD and listen to our tunes because the harmonies are nice. So this first song I'm going to do is a song called Time to Kill, and I wrote it a couple of weeks ago as this pandemic started going, and it's kind of an apocalyptic view of things, but I think in the end it's hopeful. Before the storm, it is so still, just a curtain blowing on the windowsill, and we don't think that we'll make it, but we will. In the calm before the storm, it is so still. In the light that came before we closed our eyes, we found the darkest places we could hide. We could not touch, we did not sympathize. In the light that came before we closed our eyes. Maybe falling is better than standing still. And if you ask me to fall, you know I will. 'Cause the sky sure smells like rain and we're waiting here again. With all this time to kill. In the days before the flood, we built our boat, packed up all our books and winter coats, and sealed ourselves up tight so we could float. In the days before the flood, we built our boat. And we tried to get the children to believe hope's not just a trick stuck up your sleeve, and love is still what everybody needs. We try to get the children to believe. standing still. And if you ask me to float, you know I will. 'Cause the sky sure smells like rain, and we're waiting here again. With all this time to kill. So the sun is running watercolor red, seagulls flying high up overhead, and the earth feels like it's rising from the dead. Yeah, the sun is running watercolor red. And I think floating is better than standing still. And if you ask me to fly, you know I will. 'Cause the sky sure smells like rain, and we're waiting here again. With all this time to kill. Yeah, the sky sure smells like rain, and we're waiting here again. With all this time to kill.
All right.
That was the debut of that song. I've never played it out before, so
Wow.
a little nerve-wracking.
Excellent. I'm gonna play the title track to our last CD, Lesser of Two Evils. So I'm kind of started out as a commentary of a political situation. And you probably heard the phrase "Lesser of Two Evils" during the last election, but it turned out to be kind of something completely different, kind of more about relationships and such. All right, here we go. But sometimes it's the first, or sometimes it's the sequel, or sometimes it's just the lesser of two evils. Sometimes you spend your life with all the wrong people. Sometimes it's just the lesser of two evils. Every light in the house is on. Every word from your mouth is gone. Every line that you wrote was wrong. Sometimes it's what's left unsaid, all things being equal. Sometimes it's just the lesser of two evils. Sometimes you spend your life with all the wrong people. Sometimes it's just the lesser of two evils. Every gift that you gave fell through. Mm-hmm. All the pieces of your heart wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. Every doubt in your mind rings true. Sometimes it don't feel too bad. Sometimes it feels lethal. Sometimes it's just the lesser of two evils. Some days it's just time. Sometimes it's just days. You can pass away the night, getting out of each other's way. You can hold on to what's right. Soon you're gonna fade. Sometimes you smile inside your car as you pass the old cathedral. Sometimes it's just the lesser of two evils. Sometimes you spend your life with all the wrong people. Sometimes it's just the lesser of two evils.
Thank you.
All right. It's hard not to. I was singing along in my own little space there. So Doug and I were actually working on another album that was supposed to come out in May. This kind of has thrown a little wrench into that. But this next song I think is going to be on there. It's called Time. And it's a song I wrote when in a very strange situation. So I'm divorced. I've been divorced for about 7 years. And my dad invited us all out to dinner, my ex-husband and my kids and Doug and my brother and my mother. And it was a little awkward, but my dad likes to be friendly, and we were all at the same event, and he wanted everybody to come. So we did. And my ex-husband starts telling all these stories about just things we did when we were married and little inside jokes that I should have gotten. And I kind of laughed to be polite, but it struck me that I really didn't have an emotional memory of what he was talking about. So I wrote the song. It's called Time. Are you lying to yourself again about everything that's come before? For me, it's easier to forget sometimes than to love you anymore. So I don't remember what you said to me when you slipped that ring onto my hand, or how the room looked like a tapestry. It's all unraveled, strand by strand. Are there pictures in your mind? A little something left behind. 'Cause there's nothing left in mine. And that's the best thing about time. Did your arms once feel like home to me? In the middle of the night. And was that you or who you tried to be? You just couldn't get it right. Are there pictures in your mind? A little something left behind. 'Cause there's nothing left in mine. And that's the best thing about time. You are laughing across the table, telling stories I should know. I can't recall a single moment, and that's the beauty of letting go. I don't remember how you left me. Was I crying in the bed? And were you frozen in the doorway, already gone in your head? Are there pictures in your mind? A little something left behind. 'Cause there's nothing left in mine. there's nothing left in mine.
All right. I'm gonna do a new song. It'll probably be on our next CD, I would think. It's actually a happy song. Don't write too many of those, but here it goes. This song's called Broke Down Jamboree. Once in love, twice too soon. Never saw a man walking on the moon, but I know what a fella's got to do for you. You love me and I love you. I got a song to sing cause our love is true. I gotta get lost, low cost rendezvous, oh yeah. City girl in cowboy boots, 100-pound swimming in your birthday suit. You're a little strung out, but you look so cute to me. Come on down to my broke down jamboree, and I'm sailing on a deep blue sea. I got love so pure, satisfaction guarantee. Oh. Winter's here and the sky is gray, and I'm a honeybee looking for a taste of May. And you're a bright red flower and a pink bouquet, oh yeah. Boy and girl on a trampoline, maybe this life's turned cool and mean, but we could bounce right through this old routine, oh yeah. Step right up to this dream machine, oh yeah. And I'm sailing on a deep blue sea. I got love so pure, satisfaction guaranteed. Let's go. And I'm sailing on a deep blue sea. I got love so pure, satisfaction guaranteed. Once in love, twice too soon. Never saw a man walking on the moon. City girl in cowboy boots, 100-pound swimming in your birthday suit. Winter's here and the sky is gray, and I'm a honeybee looking for a taste of May. Boy and girl on a trampoline, baby this life's turned cool and mean, and I'm sailing on a deep blue sea. I got love so pure, satisfaction guaranteed. Oh. Oh. Oh.
Yeah, that song's really fun when we do it live. That was
Yeah.
great. I always think that Doug sounds like that, like frog on is it Bugs Bunny or
Bugs
Hello my
Bunny.
honey, hello my baby.
That's what I was going for.
Yeah, I know. So this next song is another song kind of about the times that we're living in. I wrote it after the shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. And felt like, you know, every day there was kind of a new tragedy. And my temple here in Newburyport, I live in Newburyport, had a vigil. And I went to it with my kids, and it was really well attended. I mean, hundreds of people from towns all over the place came. And I was very inspired. I was inspired by all the people and what the rabbi talked about. And so this song incorporates all of that. And from this song is how we have an open mic that we run up here called Old New Coffee House. And this song kind of was the inspiration for that as well. It's called Spinning. When we're gonna slow things down. When we're gonna slow things down. Get off this road we're on and turn this thing around. When we're gonna slow things down. When we're gonna find some light. When we're gonna find some light. The brightest darkness shine right through the blackest night. When we're gonna find some light. See the people gather round. Raise their voices. Stand their ground. Some things are lost now, but some are found. And the world still spinning round. And how we gonna find some peace? How we gonna find some peace? When every tragedy suspends us in our grief. How we gonna find some peace? And how we gonna hold on to faith? How we gonna hold on to faith? One day it's all around us and the next it slips away. How we gonna hold on to faith? See the people gather round. Raise their voices. Stand their ground. Some things are lost now, but some are found. And the world still spinning round. Maybe we'll always ask why. Maybe we'll always ask why. And words may fail us, but my God, we gotta try. Maybe we'll always ask why. Maybe you can take my hand. Maybe you can take my hand. When we've had about as much as we can stand. Maybe you can take my hand. Maybe you can take my hand. Maybe you can take my hand.
Oh, powerful. Yeah. Thank you.
What, do we have time?
Yes.
Okay.
One more.
Yeah, sure. All right.
Just want to introduce you to my cat, Stella,
I noticed.
over there. Stella, say hello.
Your accompanist.
All right, let's see. All right. All right, so let's see. This song is song goes out to my fellow friends in New York. I grew up in New York, and I have friends there, and they're obviously going through a lot of tough times. Let's hope the curve is going down. And this song, in spite of the title, which sounds pretty ominous, it's actually a song about reclamation and kind of defeating things and just kind of claiming your life. And it's kind of song about my grandparents who lived in Brooklyn for a long time. I am just about to die. Give me 6 or 7 weeks and then I'll say goodbye. Take me to the Rocking Horse, take me to Coney Island. 'Cause I am just about to die. I am a long forgotten soul, too young to be in heaven, much too old for the rock and roll. But I come to America when I was 6 years old. 'Cause I am a long forgotten soul. Settled on the Bowery by the Navy Yard. Met a fine young Jewish girl on the grassy Prospect Park. Married on a winter's day, then I lost my job. Hired by that factory near Bedford and DeKalb. Made ourselves a family, gave this town our blood. Tried out for the Yankees when I was 21. 65 years down the road, now my life is done. God has come to call, so forget you all, my race is fine to run. 'Cause I am just about to die, but I'll meet you, sir, in heaven if you make it up that high. I've got hearts on all the cards, I think I just get by. 'Cause I am just about to die. 'Cause I am just about to die.
All right.
Much.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. So yes, I think we're at the halfway point now, and I just want to say thank you to both of you for that Zoom concert. Really excellent. I didn't know how this goes, but I felt like this was a house concert for me, and I imagine for all viewers too. And you were both so natural and really powerful of your lyrics and just beautiful to the ear.
Thank you so
Of your
much. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank
Well, thank you. And I know I spent a little time looking at your website today, and I recommend that folks take a look over there. There's access to your songs on your CD there, and information about you and how to order this CD as well. And I just encourage people to take a look, buy a CD, maybe send a thank you note on the email you have there. also. And I really appreciate your being here and sharing your gift of music. I know I feel lifted from the whole of the songs that you shared.
Thank
And
you much. Thank you, Cheryl. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it. We had a great time. We really appreciate you inviting us.
good. Well,
Yeah.
thank you both again and take good care each day.
Thank you. You
And
too, Cheryl. We really appreciate it.
we'll see you out in the world eventually and look forward to that and hearing you live in person as well. So,
Yep.
Absolutely.
all right. Take care.
You too.
Thanks,
Good night.
everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Hi, Nadia. Can you take off the mute off of your microphone?
Hello, Nadia.
Hi.
I hear
How's
you.
that doing? Great. I was hard getting the
Ah.
lighting, so it's not ideal, but
Oh, I think it's great. This is wonderful to see you here.
I'm
So,
glad to be
so we're
here.
good,
Yeah.
Bob? All set, Bob? Yes. Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here also. I know this was short notice and it's a different format than what we had planned, but I am delighted that you are here to share some of your poetry this evening. Um, I'll tell folks about you and then ask you a few questions. That Nadia Colburn, who is here to share her poetry, has several degrees in English, including a PhD from Columbia University. And Nadia has taught at universities and is a certified Kundalini yoga teacher, has taught mindfulness and meditation, and her poetry has been published in more than 80 national magazines and journals, including the New Yorker, American Poetry Review, and Kenyon Review, to name a few. Nadia states that her work in writing explores questions of trauma, healing, silence, and voice on personal, social, and global levels. And we'll talk a little bit about that before you read. And her first compilation of poetry was released October 2019 with the title The High Shelf. And also, Nadia has been very busy writing a number of articles in different areas, including health and well-being, spirituality, mindfulness, creative writing, and its relation to healing, poetry, and our stories. And Nadia also writes on concerns related to the environment and climate change activism. So I imagine I've left out information. You are incredibly busy powerhouse of a person in different directions with your writing and your work. I wonder how, I know you just released some article related to the environment while you've been in quarantine. I wonder about you and how you've been doing these days. How is it for you as a writer with your work and with your family?
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for having me here, Cheryl. And it's great to be here. And thank you for everyone who's tuning in and watching. These are definitely unusual times. And, you know, I think to some extent, I'm fine. Like, I'm in Cambridge, and my son is home from his first year at college, and my daughter's doing her ninth grade. You know, from home, and my husband is a high school teacher, so he's teaching from home. So, and I'm teaching my online classes. So all four of us are kind of in different rooms doing Zoom calls and doing a variety of different things. We're doing okay, and I'm happy to still be able to go outside and enjoy the spring. So yeah, did you have a question about the article that I wrote recently, or kind of how it's related to?
Well, yes, since you're talking about environment and getting outside, and
Yeah.
it's obviously you care deeply about the environment. And I think this article that I saw on your newsletter was just released the end of March on climate activism. And
So
you want to mention
yeah,
a little bit about that?
yeah, that piece is talking about. I'm a member of Extinction Rebellion, which is a climate activist, volunteer network, and Extinction Rebellion has 4 demands, which are to tell the truth, to act now, to move beyond partisan politics, to have a just transition, to really think about the most vulnerable, and then it's all in the service of a regenerative culture. And I think that those kinds of guidelines are really helpful for thinking about how to address COVID, but also really how to live as a society in general. And also related actually to being a creative writer, to listen deeply. What is the truth? There are so many different stories out there. And so I think it takes some quieting to really, and this is where my work as a poet, I think, intersects, to listen into the silence, to what is really kind of a deeper truth that we can feel. Obviously, we need to listen to the science as well and really think about what sources we're paying attention to and how we're living in alignment with that truth, and kind of bringing together what we say and what we do. So
so this time of stillness inspired you to think about, in the midst of this very dramatic time of pandemic, but then connect that over to our need to be concerned about our whole planet Earth.
Exactly. Yeah. And my poems really actually look at those questions too. Connecting the individual experience with the larger experience and seeing how we're all interconnected. And I'm also a student of Thich Nhat Hanh, who talks a lot about interbeing, the sense that every being is codependent on other beings. We all are. So in my poetry, I feel like I get to, again, quiet and listen to that web of interbeing. And as I was thinking about what I might read tonight, so this is my collection, The High Shelf.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And so I chose for the cover, I don't know if you can see it, but it's this image of the sky, this sense of kind of possibility and spaciousness. And in the center of the book is a series of poems about containment, about staying in boxes. So I was thinking, actually, that's really perfect for this time, because so many of us are staying at home and kind of feeling confined. And yet, how do we also connect to what's beyond our house, beyond our individual experience, to still have that sense of spaciousness? So I don't know if you wanted me to dive in and read something, or?
Sure. Yes. Why don't you get started, and we will just play it from there.
And feel free to interrupt and ask me any questions at any time. So this poem is called The Physical World, and it is inspired, it's after Joseph Cornell, who's a visual artist who made these incredible series of boxes with like little partitions in them. And his brother suffered from cerebral palsy and was homebound. So he wasn't really able to leave his wheelchair or his house. And then Joseph Cornell spent his life living with his brother, but he would go out in New York City and just walk and look for things and then assemble them, like antiques and old objects, and bring them home and make art out of them. So his experience really inspired me. And I wrote these poems a very long time ago. This book took a long time to all come together. Okay, The Physical World, after Joseph Cornell. There was the opposite house, not lit by the sun, and the trees all dead-like, cut by the frame. And we were lying there, trying to keep ourselves, trying to keep the other, and the other trying to keep the other, that was just the same with some little variation. And the brown shingle, and the brown shingle next to it. The world inlatched, of itself made, and the boxes, the little boxes, each one just the same with some little modulation. And in the boxes, little partitions. And in the partitions, littler partitions. And there, in one, a bird.
Oh, wow. There are a lot of birds activating recently with this particular time.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful ending. Why don't you go ahead as if we are all listening, as if you were in our studio, and
Great.
continue on. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So this next poem is called The Feeling of Trying to Express the Feeling I Can't Even Name. I think we've all had that experience. We assembled it. We made the corners tight, a box that might hold all of us, safe from everything we wanted to escape, and creating the idea of escape itself. So, as I said, I wrote these poems a long time ago, but they seem strangely,
Right. Isn't that interesting?
yeah, like pertinent for this moment. And, you know, as we shelter in place, what does safety mean? And are we making ourselves safer? Yes, in some ways, but then there's also the idea of kind of that, what other dangers then do we encounter by closing ourselves off? Which is a question, I think, that is a question that we can also ask. I think I was also asking myself emotionally, you know, I could keep myself safe in some way by closing myself off, by keeping myself, right? Like protecting myself. But by protecting myself, what was I also losing out on? Okay, so this is a long poem that I've actually never read out loud before. It's called Given, and I'll give it away. This is a list of birds who have all gone extinct, and their names are really beautiful. And I imagine many things about the birds are beautiful. Given: King Island emu, Mariana mallard, pink-headed duck, Labrador duck, New Zealand quail, double-banded argus, Hawkins whale, red-throated wood whale, white-winged sandpiper, Eskimo curlew, Colombian grebe, Bermuda night heron, Ascension night heron, New Zealand little bittern, small St. Helena petrel, large St. Helena petrel, St. Helena dove, passenger pigeon, silvery pigeon, Mauritius blue pigeon, Rodriguez gray pigeon, Bonin wood pigeon, Sulu bleeding heart, black-fronted parakeet, society parakeet, paradise parrot, night parrot, Cuban red macaw, Cuban kite, laughing owl, Alfaros hummingbird, imperial woodpecker, Grace's emerald, Gould's emerald, bush wren, red sea swallow, white-eyed river martin, Rook's blue flycatcher, bay starling, mysterious starling, black lord waxwell, whose songs we do not hear.
Wow. They are beautiful names.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just think of all the stories that those birds had, all the colors and the songs and the people's interactions with the birds and the naming of the birds. And anyway, there was a much longer list. I had a lot of names to choose from for that poem, unfortunately. But, you know, I don't want to, in my poetry, I feel like I'm always balancing the kind of danger and the sense of possibility and potential and hope, really, and how the two go together, how the shadow and the light are. So, reading the newspaper by the open window. The world that is alone in its beauty, with no consolation, the black walnut tree, the double oleander, the goats always hungry. Who hasn't been seduced? Who is the wonderful me of happiness, of forgetfulness, of horror that must be a part? As if all were a word in another language. Now no one speaks. Actually, this poem is interesting because I wrote that poem a long time ago and I had the ending, now no one speaks, when I wrote the poem. And then I revised the poem to make it, I'm learning to speak another language. I am learning to speak a language of the all. But when the book was accepted, I went back to the original version because it comes kind of early in the book and I kind of need to learn the language of putting it all together over the course of the book. So, yeah.
I imagine it was quite an intensive process of putting the book together, and then you've had some readings, right? This was released in October. You started sharing it out. I saw your name on the list
Yeah.
out there. I'll just interrupt you briefly for the reading. And how did you find your different audiences reacting to your poetry with the intention of addressing topics of the different areas of self, of collective self, of healing, of beauty, of grief?
Yeah. I think audiences were pretty receptive. I mean, I really enjoyed the readings that I gave, and I actually had it, as your readings, which I'm happy to be able to do here, but I had a number of other readings lined up for the spring that have been canceled. So nice to be able to do this one. I think that a lot of poetry audiences are thinking about these questions anyway, I'm not alone in thinking about them and writing about them. And so I think we're all in the same boat, turning these questions over.
Yeah,
and
actually, that is all we're getting on the screen now, right? In regard to poetry, people are looking for poetry that is addressing our healing at this time and dealing with grief.
I have two more recent poems, actually. So the book came out recently, but it's a kind of interesting story. If you're interested, come over to my website. I talk more about it. And I actually just published an essay about the very long process of writing this book and publishing it. And partly because this book does deal with trauma, it took me longer personal trauma also, it took me longer to kind of birth it into the world. And so I have an essay that just came out in Poetry Northwest about that. But I have some more recent poems that I think deal with the same topics, the same question of, containment, grief and beauty and love and suffering, but in somewhat different voice. So I thought it might be nice just to end with two of those. Okay. This poem is called What My Heart Desires. At night, when it is hot in the dark at my daughter's camp, the girls take off their clothes by the docks at the wide mouth of the lake for special swimming. I want to take off my clothes on the page, the way I came here, for special writing. I want to feel utterly safe in a dark that is soft and the water that will hold me. When I cannot sleep, when my mind will not turn off, I turn the questions over and over. What is it that I want? What will the next years of my life, if I am lucky, hold? The waters of the ocean creep up the shore. The temperature slides up a half degree, then more. The high glacial shelf in the Arctic breaks off. I would be lying if I said this is what I see when I cannot sleep in bed. Instead, I see only what I ever have had, the clear water, myself held in community, my body still a girl's, with the whole world before me and utterly free, and my mouth open in song, the words not yet written on the page.
Mm, yeah.
And I have one more if there's time.
Yes, there is.
And this is a really, really recent poem. So it's called Love in the Pandemic. Every kiss that was ever kissed, every smile, every baby's delight, a first step, a face that hides and comes back, a belly laugh, every morning of gladness, gladness, that self-same word we know because we've felt it every today, every yesterday, for 1,000 years, 10,000 years, in languages now no one speaks, every grace, every kindness, every head that bends down close to another to listen, every unchronicled act of bodies helping bodies, so long gone, we cannot even begin to account the occasions. Every one is framed by great suffering, by deceit, by threat, by death. No open plane of justice, of rightness, no guarantee of tomorrow. But still, your lips upon my lips, your hand on the small of my back, my neck, my cheeks, just so, outside of language, in every language, across every inch of time and space. Joy, beauty, thanks. On the long path, through the meadows where the forests burned, through the grasslands, the stands of evergreens, the dark woods, the cities, abandoned lots, old minefields, oil fields, we make our journey. On and on we go, again, stumbling into love.
Ooh, wow. Thank you for sharing that. You wrote that obviously in the last couple of weeks then. And
yeah, it's really recent.
It's a powerful poem that is helpful to hear as a listener right now, that we all need to hear that kind of a message. So thank you for debuting it.
Thank you. Yeah, for giving me the opportunity.
Wake up and smell the poetry. And congratulations again on your book. I know I spent some time looking at your website, and access to purchasing your book can be through Amazon as well as your website.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know that there's information, there's a lot of emphasis about how you feel it is important for writers to find their unique voice and share their story, whether it's through poetry, memoir, nonfiction is the other category that you help with as a teacher, both directly and online. And I was wondering if you could talk about that for the last few minutes. And maybe, I've heard people say, oh, I'd like to write, but I never have the time, or, I couldn't back in second grade and I just don't see myself having an opportunity. We are in a time of having more availability of time and focus now. So you provide teaching right now?
I do, yeah. So I'm the founder of Align Your Story, which offers one-on-one coaching, writing classes, online classes. I have actually a free meditation and writing challenge that I'm going to be leading in about a week. And I don't know if it's up on my website yet, but if you come over to my website and sign up for my newsletter, you'll get information about that, and I'll put it up on my website very soon. But that's just a nice way to be guided if you want in this time. I feel like you don't need to be more productive, but it can be nice to center. And one of the things I focus a lot on is connecting with the body and with the physical experiences as we write, connecting with the breath, our whole person experience. Because so often writing is taught kind of from the head up. And when we reconnect, we can really go much more deeply. So taking a moment to meditate before we write and listen deeply, and to write from a place of listening and connection with the self and with others. And so that's really my philosophy. And I have a lot of, students that I teach, and it's a very fulfilling, I think, method for people to work with.
Yes. Yeah.
There's lots of information on my website. So if you just Google Nadia Colburn. It will come up. It's nadiacolburn.com. And I'm also very accessible. So if you have any questions, please reach out because I respond to all my emails. Yeah.
Well, terrific. I think it's a wonderful time to check out your website and see all of the different areas you're involved with related to writing and related to caring for the world and activating other people to be aware and find their place and their voice of what to do right now as well. So thank you so much for sharing your powerful poetry, your meditations for the world, your work. I wish you good days with your family in your separate rooms and together. And I look forward to hearing more about you from your newsletter as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. And thank you for all you do. I know you do so much for, you know, the arts and healing and community. And so I'm really honored to be here. Thank you. Be well.
All right. You too. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.